There's no doubt about it that businesses are going to have to update their privacy policies before the GDPR comes into force, and there's two main reasons why that's the case. The first is that the GDPR has introduced new pieces of information that need to be inserted into a privacy policy that weren't previously required under the Data Protection Act. And secondly, the introduction of the new principle of transparency means that businesses will not only have to consider what content goes into their privacy policy, but also the way in which they're communicating that information with their data subjects. There's a whole raft of information that needs to go into any privacy policy, but businesses would do well to remember that at the heart of any privacy policy, data subjects need to be told about what personal data that's being collected by businesses, what those businesses are doing with that personal data, and thirdly, who they're sharing that personal data with. So if businesses can satisfy those things, then they're going quite a long way to getting the information that they need into a privacy policy. On top of that, the GDPR has introduced new pieces of information that need to go into a privacy policy, and these are things like the legal basis on which personal data is held, whether that be via consent from the data subject themselves, or in order for the business to satisfy a contractual obligation, or, for example, if they've got a legitimate business interest, which means that they can keep the data. Other things that the GDPR specifies needs to be included are things like whether or not the data is going to be transferred outside of the European Economic Area and how long businesses are going to retain personal data for. And this actually could be something quite difficult to inform data subjects of at the start when the data is collected in the first place. And finally, another piece of information that needs to go in are the various data subjects' rights that they have, and this will have to include the new rights introduced by the GDPR. The time when the information in a privacy policy needs to be communicated to data subjects will depend on how businesses collect their data. If you as a business are collecting your data directly from your data subjects, for example via your website or a survey in the high street, then you'll need to provide the data subjects with their privacy policy at the time you collect the data. It can't be any later than that. Alternatively, if you are collecting data via a third party or another source, then you will need to provide data subjects with your privacy policy no later than 1 month after obtaining their data. However, it should be noted that if you are intending to communicate with the data subject or pass on their data to another third party, you must provide your privacy policy to them before that communication is made.